Hey, welcome to another episode of Regenerative Inspiration. Today I'm joined with Richard Lackey, who I just met. He is absolutely awesome, a wonderful entrepreneur. He's the founder of the worldfoodbank.org. I have talked about a lot of different things from Costa Rica to his past in the medical side of things, trading. This is going to be a very, very cool conversation. So I think you're going to want to join us. Richard, thanks for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
I'm honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, so how do you go from medical to trader to meaning Wall Street trader to developing a technology there to building things for the world around food and food security? Tell me about Richard a little bit.
Oh, well, I'm old. That's part of it. That's a lot of gray hair came from that. I grew up in Georgia, and I found I had a knack for trading when I was 15 years old. My father bought some stock. I started following it in the Wall Street Journal. I was that nerdy kid, and I found that I could see patterns. I started drawing them on spreadsheets, and I could kind of see patterns going forward and did fairly well with it. And started doing it into college, and by my second year in college, I was trading thousands of contracts on gold and silver through Merrill Lynch, and became very active in the space. I had planned to go into the military and was in ROTC full time, and I had a climbing accident in my senior year and fell a little over 60 feet, had a head injury and a back injury and broke my arm in 20-something places. And the military said, "Thank you, but we don't need your service anymore."
Wow.
And so you have to make a pivot. So I tell people, well, what do you do when your body's kind of broken up and your plans are changed? You sell drugs. So I went to work for a pharmaceutical company. And
that's not where I knew you were going.
And so I had drugs in my trunk, but it just wasn't the same kind that you might think. But I worked all through college as well as a paramedic. I had graduated early from high school and really enjoyed working as a paramedic. And but most of the physicians that I worked with and most of those that I met when I worked for this pharmaceutical company were more interested in my trading. I actually made more money trading than I did working for the pharmaceutical company. And so we ended up setting up a fund, and I ended up spending a lot of time with physicians and others. And I took this technology that we had and ended up meeting a fellow that was a floor trader and another fellow was a NASA scientist. And we created an automated version of what I was seeing and they were seeing, and the math models that he was able to filter things out. And together we built this incredible technology. And in 1996, we started using it, and we haven't quit using it.
Yeah. So you're still using it today?
I still use it. And that's essentially what funded everything else that we did. But after leaving the pharmaceutical company to manage money and to trade full time, had a group of physicians. We had done well enough that they said, "You should just leave and do this full time." After doing that for a number of years, I went from wearing no glasses to 1 to 1.5 to 2s and getting headaches in the morning and all that from just sitting in front of a computer all the time.
Right.
And at one point I was doing medical missions because that was one of the side things I had done, and just had a couple of events happen that gave me a desire to do something that was a little bit more meaningful. And
yeah, talk about that, because I know we talked just offline a little bit about there was a certain event, especially it was in the Philippines, I believe, right? That really was a pivot in your life.
Yeah.
Dig into that a little bit more for me, and then what that spurred you to do.
Sure. I being in emergency medicine for a long time, and I worked in surgery for a number of years, and I'd seen most everything, and quite frankly, seeing people hit each other in the head with an axe didn't bother me, and folks chopped up or shot and cut didn't really bother me. I would go eat at Waffle House and go to bed, and I'd be just fine. But kids, it always bothered me, seeing kids that were injured. And I was actually, ironically, I was at an investment symposium in Louisiana, in New Orleans, at a Marriott or Hyatt there. And they brought up on the big screens that Typhoon Haiyan had just happened. And one of the generals, a U.S. general, was saying, look, the airports are damaged, the boat ports are damaged, we can only get in through helicopter, we have very limited access, and if we don't solve it in 7 days, we're going to start seeing some massive death. And a local reporter embedded in that space, there was people walking back and forth in a large group, walking this big trail, this pathway going into the city, essentially, to Tacloban to get food and water, which is what they expected. And there was a small stream of people coming back. And he turned around, and there was a lady that had come back, and she had probably a 4-year-old child, maybe a 2-year-old. And she had walked off of one of the little things in between the rice paddies into a broken down home and gone inside. And he had kind of turned around, and then he turned back around and saw her coming back out and went to interview her. And I don't think that he thought of it initially, but while he was interviewing, he said, I noticed that you went into this house with 2 children, but you came out with 1. What's the reason for that? And she said, well, the people coming back from Tacloban have just told us that they're out of food and water, and there's not going to be any more for at least 10 days. And I only have enough food to feed 2 of us. So I had to decide which child to save. Oh. And I think what got me is she said it matter-of-factly. She had done the math in her head before. And to think that so many places in the world, that's part of the DNA of their life, is that they have to figure out, if we don't have the supply, there is no backup. And I can replace the youngest child, the one that has the biggest chance of if it was you and me and a child was drowning, we would jump in and sacrifice our life to save the child. But if we don't eat, the children will certainly die. And so in much of the world, in the developing world, the father eats first, and the mother eats second, and the children eat where food is left. But the children are the first to die. And that day it hit me. And I called my wife and I said, I think we need to do something about that, because we can. There's enough food. I grew up in the South where my grandmother used to say, there's enough food to feed everybody. It's just not where it needs to be when it needs to be there. Yeah. And that's still true today. We throw away 40% of the food we grow. Right. We grow plenty of food. We don't need to grow as much as we grow. We just need to grow it better, and we need to rethink the way that we manage where and how that food is distributed.
Yeah, my grandfather had said that during the Great Depression. He said there was plenty of food, like in their area, but the transportation to get it to where it needed to go was the issue.
As people in the cities were struggling, just like what happened now with a major food issue, is the people on the farms would have enough to feed themselves. But as we saw with COVID, logistics is an important component.
Exactly. Yeah, that was the word I was looking for, was logistics. And so, talk to me about the World Food Bank and how you grew it, and what were some of the lessons you learned, with that? Because that was focused mostly in Africa, correct?
Well, we actually we said, let's trial some models in the U.S. first. So I got together with 2 other guys that also happen to be fund managers, and we each raised 7 figures together, and we started manufacturing meals. And the goal was, let's buy excess production from farmers, the extra tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, onions, rice, what have you, and create meals that are regionally specific. For example, we serve cheese grits in the South, but we don't in New York.
New York doesn't eat cheese grits.
You call it polenta. Yeah. They still aren't going to eat it. You can't fool them up there. They know better. So we started doing that and putting the meals together. We went and met with Red Cross and Salvation Army and Send Relief and FEMA.
Yeah.
They said, that's a fantastic idea, and what we had seen, and I had, during this process, I had worked on surgical teams in Haiti and Latin America, and we had seen children that we were doing multi-stage anastomosis, resections of their distal colon, because they had eaten MREs that had 8,000 grams of sodium, and so their intestines would swell up, and that's a surgical emergency. And so they didn't have any injuries from the natural disaster, but now we're having to take out a significant portion of their distal colon.
Because they're not used to it.
Because they're not used to it, and it'll explode and they'll die.
I had never heard that before. I had no idea.
And that's a very common side effect of providing MREs into foreign countries when we do aid, because they were built for Marines that are drinking 3 gallons of water a day and running 12 miles. And
Right.
and they're not, and even for them, it's only meant for a few days until we get mobile kitchens set up and that sort of thing. But we have enough excess regular food, and we have enough ways to manufacture it where we don't have to put that kind of sodium in if we thought it out and did it with that purpose in mind. And now people are starting to do that. A lot of the meals you see people showing that are creating certain provisions for disaster response to store in your basement.
Right.
We decided to start in the U.S. and to build a network of stored food so that after a disaster in Louisiana or Mississippi or whatever, FEMA could dispatch at the same time that they sent other crews in. They could dispatch teams already preordained, pre-approved to go into danger zones, because you don't want to send 18-wheelers of some company that's not properly approved. Cisco and U.S. Foods are waiting for a rapid assessment report. The people that are leaving New Orleans are not just, they're going to the next places out, and the next places out. So you don't want to take food from them because they're going to be overwhelmed with need.
Right.
So you've got to figure out what are the next places we can go, and that's not really their responsibility or their job. Now, U.S. Food and Cisco and others have participated in trying to create that, but every disaster is unique. So FEMA really liked the idea. We designed and built a national model based on the EMA groups around the country, where we would build a network of stored food, and that really was our original mission. And what we found was that it literally takes an act of Congress to get it done.
Yeah.
And we spent a lot of time on lobbyists and dollars on lobbyists and whatever, but we just couldn't get it done. They needed to add 1% to their budget to start buying food and storing it and building it in these facilities. And then the largest organizations that do food relief have logistics. They could manage the delivery when it's needed. But this would help farmers. It would help in disasters. And quite frankly, as you build a certain amount of excess, it could be rolled into the school feeding programs, into the SNAP program. So now you get healthy food that's unadulterated.
Right.
Feeding them. So everyone seems to like it. And I think that the administration now seems to like the model. We just can't seem to quite get it done. So we're...
Yeah. Well, and I know, and it's even a struggle sometimes, because I know the local school district where I'm at, they just got the local farmer contract this year.
That's right.
This year. Like, and
is
so
that in Texas.
Yeah, that's in Texas.
Texas and part of California and a couple of other places are doing it. And the results are amazing.
They're great. I mean, you're getting
really
way
amazing.
Higher quality. It's not like sitting on any shelf for a long period of time.
Yeah.
It's direct from farm,
That's right.
and I mean, so it's like,
and it's healthier.
Way
It's
better.
unadulterated.
Way
It doesn't have,
Yeah.
it doesn't need the chemicals to hold it and keep it stored for long periods of time because they're eating it fresh.
Right.
Yeah. It's a great solution. It's a distributed model versus a centralized model, and food systems are really best operated when they begin in a decentralized model.
Right.
So that's the answer, I think.
So, talk to me about something. You had mentioned an example where I think this example was in Africa, where you had maybe a contract to raise 100 chickens for one person, but then you found that multiple contracts were better if you made the people. Can you explain that a little bit?
Sure.
I think the principles. I think the principles are great to understand, because in business as well, this is something, and in practicality of just
You're
human
exactly
response, right?
Yeah, the solution or the knowledge that we gain from the work in Africa is 100% applicable in the U.S. and 100% applicable to business in general. The ultimate is that we learn that people work better in community, and people are more financeable in community, and people grow faster and get better results when they do it together. So there's actually an old African saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
So Steve Jobs took it from an African saying.
He took it. It's an old African. Some of this.
I always thought that was Steve's quote.
That's not Steve. No, that's an old. And different parts of Africa say it's there. So some people say, well, it's an old Kiswahili saying. Some say it's a. But anyway, but it's all over Africa. But that model is certainly true. And we started by financing individual farmers, and they would come in almost like a bank, and we'd say, what are you doing and how are you doing it? And we'd finance the inputs, whether that's chickens or feed or seeds or whatever. And we found that the repayment rates were quite low. They would sell off their asset and say, oh, sorry, I've already spent money, don't have the money to pay you back, because they knew there wasn't any
accountability.
There wasn't any accountability, right? But and we also we learned a number of things. We found that if we worked as a group, we could train a group easier than one individual at a time. And if we trained a group and got people to work together, we could provide the inputs together. So instead of providing 100 day-old chicks to you, we could provide 5,000 chicks to a village and teach them all how to manage whether it's a laying facility or a broiler facility or whatever the case is. And then we found through groups in Zimbabwe and Zambia that had done a great job of creating networks of these communities, that if you could do that and then partner with the processor and say, look, we can get you 20,000 chickens a week. Now they have a guaranteed offtake, so they're not afraid to grow larger from 100 chicks to 200. But what would happen is when you did that, and you provide those inputs, if somebody doesn't respond, he's fired. They pull a Donald Trump on him. They say, sorry, but you're fired, And the other people would make it up. So they would know they've got to deliver 20,000 chickens. They deliver 20,000 chickens. And the people that didn't do it, they'd say, well, you're out of the club until you bring back the $50 you cost us, or you add the extra chickens in, and once we approve, we'll vote you back in. Since that time, we've had a 100% repayment rate.
Wow.
And people working in clubs, which is actually higher than most of the banks in the United States.
Well, I mean, 100%, you can't get better than that.
It's amazing. But the other thing that we found is that when you build in community, instead of them feeling like we're competing with one another, they actually would say, hey, look, my chicken's not doing well, and he's got so-and-so, and they go, oh, well, that chicken poop is yellow. It's not supposed to be. That's coccidiosis. That's whatever. But they started sharing information with one another and preventing issues and improving feed. And by buying an aggregate, they were able to lower prices. By sending one truck to pick them all up, we lowered logistics cost. But by doing that, they're now super efficient. They have guaranteed offtake. But the other thing that we found is that they valued community more, where they used to value, they became more and more independent. Yeah. But when they became more interdependent, they actually became happier. They were a friendlier group, and we got to a point where we had a large farm that we were going to essentially off-put 2,000 acres of this to a group of ladies, farmers. And by the way, if you teach them all, you don't need DEI, you don't need specialty stuff. The women will outperform a preponderance of the time. They organize together, they keep each other accountable, they go through the training, they keep good records. And I would say that when we train, if it's 50-50 men and women, somewhere between 62 and 72% of those who excel, that are in the top, they go from bronze to silver to gold to platinum, whatever, the vast majority will be women-led or women-run groups, which is kind of interesting. But we went to this group of ladies, and they had gone from maybe $350 a year in income to around $9,000 a year in income.
That's significant.
Pretty amazing. Yeah. And we went in, a buddy of mine who had worked with one of the large global organizations, and said, we'd like to finance this land for you and let you go from 200 acres to 2,200 acres. And we were excited, they're making 9,000, they can make $35,000, $40,000 a year. We were kind of proud of ourselves that we had done this work, and they were prepared for that. And they said, wow, well, thank you so much. Well, could you give us a few minutes to discuss it? And they went outside and left us in this little brick building. And they came back and said, well, first of all, we want to thank you for all that you've done, because several of us have a truck. We all have metal roofs on our house, all have concrete floors. All of our kids are in school. In fact, we built a new school, the one you saw, last year when you came in. We funded all that. We have full-time teachers. All of our kids play together in the afternoon, and we eat at a different house every day as a family of friends. So we are living our best life. So the simple answer is, we don't need anything more. If you want us to do it, to honor you, we'll do it until you find somebody else, but we don't need it.
Yeah.
And we thought, wow, we got to be really careful. In America, you make 20 grand, you want to make 200 grand, you want to make 2 million, you want to make 20 million. Their quality of life was their goal, and they were living their best life. And so sometimes we think, well, gosh, if they're at 9,000, what could we do? Well, they are living in the top 1%. They eat healthy food, and they spend so much time with friends and family. You leave jealous of their lifestyle. It's not about the money, it's about the lifestyle and the quality of life. And that was something that we started making sure that when we went into places, we let them set the goals and dictate to us how to set those goals. And I think that in America, we need to kind of come to that. What is your goal that you make X number of dollars, or is your goal that you get to spend more time with your kids and you get to travel a little bit?
Exactly.
What have you?
Yeah, and give them the experiences and give them the time with you, because that's the thing that you can't ever get back.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
Yeah. Well, that's really interesting. Because it is, you get, first of all, you get into independence here in the U.S., right? So there's not a lot of collaboration in a lot of places. You're just by yourself and you silo yourself and you don't talk to somebody. I don't like that, so I'm always trying to bring people around. But it's like, that's something that a lot of people fall into. And then it's also like, well, I made this much last year, I gotta make this much more, and I gotta make this much more, and you keep buying at that same rate, and it's just like you're never gonna be happy. You just got more stuff to maintenance and more things to like look over, and then all of a sudden you're like, there's a very similar story with a like, I think a Costa Rican or a fisherman down in Central America.
That's right. That's right. We used to have that sign in our restaurant in our hotel in Costa Rica. The hedge fund manager that would come in, which is probably what you're alluding to.
Exactly right. Yep.
Yeah. He was a great fisherman and said you could build a huge fishing business and make millions, go public. And why would I do that? Well, then you could do whatever you want. You mean like fish every day?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what's next? Because we've talked about regenerative farming, and I think a lot of the people that watch this know that I practice as much as I possibly can regenerative farming. It's still more a hobby farm, but it's something that I feel very, very important, because you have an ecosystem that works together. If you look at the soil and how important the soil is, that can grow anything once you take care of the soil, right? It's a great ecosystem.
Save the soil, save the world.
Yeah. In chiropractic, we will always say, okay, if you have healthy cells, you have healthy tissue, you have healthy organs, you have healthy organ systems, you have a healthy body, then you have a healthy family. If you're all healthy, you have a healthy business, community. It just goes out from there, right? And we are what we eat in a lot of ways.
As you get older, you absolutely recognize that health is the first. If you're not healthy, it weighs down everything else that you do.
That's right. And so we even talked about some hydroponic examples too. Share that a little bit about the hydroponic, and then I want to know what you're doing next, right? Because there's something here that's coming together.
I don't want to tick off anybody, but I'll share kind of my experience, if that helps.
Yeah.
So we started out many years ago kind of testing. This is why we're still doing work in Costa Rica and Panama and other places. We started out investing in and running hydroponics, and then we started doing aquaponics. And we even did what they call super intensive shrimp farming. And this is saltwater shrimp. And we found that hydroponics is predominantly water, and you're adding in whatever you need. Aquaponics, you're using fish and other things for people that don't fully know about that. But the bottom line is we found that in our facilities, even here in Colorado, we would grow about 8 times more tomatoes per square meter using aquaponics than we would in the same square meter of soil outside. So when people look at it, that's what they immediately go, man, we should be using aquaponics everywhere. We could feed cities, we could feed all this with aquaponics. And the simple answer is yes, you could. You absolutely could. The negative, or the thing to be cautious of, is that the tomatoes that we ate there taste good, but they were not as good when you side by side compare them with what grew in the soil. What grew in the soil, you could taste the terroir. Just like a fine wine, you could taste the depth of minerals and vitamins that were in it. And that's because God put 850 plus minerals and vitamins in the soil.
Right.
And sometimes we just pay attention to what we've studied, the calcium and the nitrogen and the phosphorus and the iron and whatever those, the different things that we know about, but there's 800 plus that we don't study a lot. And a little bit of selenium is really important. A little bit of this is important. A little bit of that is important. And what we found is that over a long period of time, people that eat food directly from healthier soil are healthier people. Mm-hmm. And the food tastes better.
Right.
So the ultimate goal to me is we want to do as much as we possibly can in the soil. And where we can't, we backfill that with things like aquaponics, but we want to make sure that we keep a priority of what we do, because the food grown in the soil, not only is it healthier for us, but it actually helps maintain and rebuild the soil biome, which is what holds more water in the ground instead of in the air. It's what keeps the water clean that's in the rivers and in the lakes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's part of an ecosystem. When we carve it out of the ecosystem, we know we only limit the benefits to that portion that we've carved out. All the other benefits that spread to the rest of the world, we've cut those out. So.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and I totally agree with you. And ultimately, it does taste way better.
It does.
Whether it's lettuce or tomatoes
Right.
or anything else, if it's grown on the ground, it's a lot better.
It is. And even folks doing greenhouse models now are doing a lot of soil-based greenhousing, right? And they're
Yes.
taking the soil and then they'll do outside composting, and then they'll
Bring it in.
remix it and do it again, and you can tell, and that
Right.
stuff tastes great.
Well, let's talk about the soil for a second, because we were talking about microbiome and things like that. And some people are becoming a little bit more successful. You know, there's biochar, there's different ways that you can have ecosystems that are created that you can potentially transplant from great soil over to not great soil, and it can start to spread.
That's right.
Have you studied any of that at all? Have you gotten?
We have, and we found in places like Uganda and Kenya where you have a lot of desert areas, but they're near peri-urban markets or what have you. If we can get people to save their chicken waste, and they mix 30 kgs of chicken poop with 50 gallons of water and leave it for 30 days and then put that in a sprayer, they can actually spray their fields, and it will generate more biology. They'll have more things growing, more roots growing, more fertility in the soil when they do that. When you talk about millions of acres, right now, the only solution that we know works at scale is ranching, and to do what they call actively managed regenerative or holistic. A guy named Alan Savory, who's kind of the grandfather of that, along with folks from the Rodale Institute, are probably the two mindsets that have kind of worked the best in the U.S. and even in other parts of the world, where they're taking areas that were decimated, turned into desert, and you put a bunch of cows eating grass, and then you're moving them into this area for part of the day, and they're pooping and peeing.
Yep.
And putting all that seed down and covering it with moisture.
That's right.
And then they leave and they let it go for 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever, and depending on where they are in the world. And they don't come back to it for a while. So they're pawing at the ground a little bit. A little bit of tilling actually helps.
Right.
There's a balance. And then they go to the next area and do it again. And when they do that, we have, and sometimes it's not, in certain parts of the world, it's immediate change. 6 months later, it's a miracle. In other places, it takes years. But it will rebuild the soil. And if you want to do millions of acres, you need millions and millions more cows and maybe buffalo and other things out there.
Well, and that was something that actually, if you go talk about the buffalo, the way they used to range, that's why everything was in the way it was. They would beat it down, the grasses would go down into the soil. I mean, they're making little pockets everywhere. I see with the cows, they make mini pockets. I could tell you firsthand that, I planted fruit trees, and I had turkeys and I had ducks near some of them, and the significance in the size is unbelievable. Like the trunk of one of the nectarines that was like closest to them was like, is this big right now? Okay. Versus like the same tree planted the same day is about like that big, 100 yards away.
Yeah.
Right. And so I let the ducks actually go out through everywhere. And I mean, they poop a lot, and chickens sometimes they scratch up a little bit too much, but that's something that's very interesting. And I think that there's so much to be known that even though the ducks and the turkeys were over here, the trees that were outside of the penned area where I had them, they also got bigger. So you can actually see the further away, it spreads. I mean, it definitely spreads, so it's really interesting. So I did that experiment.
I have a good friend named Joni Kindwell Moore, and she's just a brilliant lady. Was a nurse, so she understands the medical side, and now she runs another business, but she talks all the time about the rhizosphere.
Yeah.
The ability of this root system to translate and act like the neurology.
Right.
It's essentially the backbone of the soil, sharing the chemical needs and communicating between the plants and the animals in the soil to take that rock and convert it into the base mineral that's needed to feed the plants. And as it does that, those roots spread, and that knowledge literally spreads, and the biome changes, and it just expands and expands. It's really miraculous. It's really amazing. Yeah.
One of the things that really shook me, and this was about 30 years ago, was when I found out that the bird chirps actually open up.
That's right.
The
flowers.
The flowers,
That's
right? They open up the flowers. They open up the leaves, so that the dew can be absorbed in. And it just blew my mind. It's
very
awesome.
Humbling.
Yeah,
it's really humbling. We think that we have so much control over things, and I think mankind can probably can make a huge difference, plus or minus. But when you realize that you're just a small part of a huge ecosystem, the sound, some people are using sound technologies, now, and they're putting it into the fields with fruit trees, and the fruits are growing multiple times more than they were before, just by feeding the sound waves back by communicating. So my grandmother saying she could talk to her plants and it helped them.
Oh, it did? Have you ever seen the
we put her on medicine back then. She's going a little crazy, but there actually was something to that.
My grandma said the
apparently.
same thing. Well, I don't know if you've ever seen the experiment where they put I think it was like a lie detector or something to the plants. Have you ever seen that?
I've seen the ones where they monitor the electrical thing, but I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, there was something where they did a study and they had people walk by the plants. Now, you have to go verify this yourself, but I saw this study, and it was like 15, 20 years ago I saw it, so it might be a little bit rusty. It was not AI. People walked by, and there was one in particular. There was three people, and this was a test environment, and the third person was vicious to one of the plants in the room. And they all left the room, right? They hooked up the plants to this lie detector or whatever it was that could read it, and the people that walked by that hadn't harassed the plant or whatever, it had no response. But the one that did, it was going like this.
Wow.
It knew.
Wow.
I mean,
Isn't that something?
Starts to whoa.
It's really, really interesting.
So, I have to look that study back up.
There's there's definitely a relationship in there, and animals are kind of the same way, and they, like you notice, they work well together. And they've done it for years in China and Japan, the rice fields where they put the ducks in, and the ducks eat many of the pests.
Yeah.
And then they also poop in there, and that adds to the nutrition. And when we can learn so much just from watching nature. When I was working with farmers in Angola, and they were excited, they were trying to get more and more leaf growth, but that's not rice, that's just leaf growth. And people do that. They want to have more leaf growth, but they're not producing anything more. And what we found is that, there's a certain amount of energy, and things grow wherever you put energy. Well, if you put energy into things that make just the leaves grow, but it doesn't produce more fruit, you're not going to get any more fruit, even though you're paddling like crazy underneath. But if you put things into energy that dig deeper roots, and you grab all the nutrition in the soil that you need, and you see those roots actually going deeper instead of going like this, we find that it produces more fruit. And so when they focus on that, on the soil, now all of a sudden the rice grew.
Yeah. It's
where the energy goes, and people are the same. Plants, wherever the energy is focused is where the fruit is created.
Yeah.
And people are there's a lot to be learned by having your feet in the soil and paying attention.
Well, and I encourage everybody to they have to plant something, and that actually moves and transitions to the next thing that you're doing, because you're creating an app, right? And ultimately this is to help a little bit of that distribution model of food. So talk to me about what the whole goal and purpose is there. I think it's already designed, right?
It is. We're adding to it and beta testing and all this, and quite frankly, we couldn't have done it this way 3 years ago. So part of it is just timing. It's just the perfect time to put this out. But there's a group of guys in Africa that created an app called Hamara, which they've just done such a miraculous job in creating kind of a super app where you can get logistics and education and how to manage your farm and how to identify pests. And we partnered that with a group that I sit on the board of called Open Ag AI. And Open Ag is grabbing all of the data from around the world, all the major universities, all the studies from AID, CGR, CIMMYT, all these other organizations, and taking those best studies and then aggregating that data and combining it with the local tacit knowledge and the local soil studies and tests and what they grow to give a farmer anywhere in the world exactly what they need to know how to manage that plant or how to grow that crop, depending on who they are and where they are. So the knowledge to be able to look at a plant and say, this is a mother-in-law tongue and it has this brown spot, is that caused by too much water or not enough or whatever, that's existed, and there's apps that do that. What we need now is to be able to give people the confidence to know what they should plant in the kind of soil they have. So the soil in your backyard is probably different from mine. But the other is, as a gardener and a farmer, oftentimes we have, in years where we have excess, we actually can lose money because those are the years we have such opportunity, but the prices drop because there's so much. And gardeners are kind of the same way. So we said, well, one of the ways we can solve things to help get that excess food from local gardeners so that people can participate in solving problems locally is to take that technology and connect it to food pantries. And there are people that are doing some similar type things, but I think at the end of the day, what we found in Africa is that it's not just about the technical efficiency, it's the end of the day, it's about building community. So we said, how can we build community where gardeners work together? Because 90% of gardeners do gardening on their own. They go to Home Depot, they read some ads, they watch some YouTube, but they do it on their own. They're not part of the garden club. But how can we get the knowledge of those garden clubs out and build more community? So we've designed an app that'll be launching shortly, and we actually connect food pantries, and they have a calendar, and so I can say, well, I'm going to have 20 kgs of extra squash or 100 kgs of extra tomatoes. I always have way too many tomatoes and peppers and onions or whatever it is. They can put out a demand. We have 600 people a week, 200 on Wednesdays, 300 on Fridays, and we can go in as a gardener and fill that need, and it's gamified, and they win badges. But on top of that, we've worked with a number of organizations where they now get discounts. So they can go in and get their seeds for 20% less than they normally pay, and they can get the seed quality they want, the heirloom quality, and by us buying in volume, we're able to get those discounts.
Yeah.
So by working in community, they save.
So instead of me buying a pack of 1,000 because it's a better deal and not using 800 of them?
That's right.
Okay, yeah. that makes sense to me.
Yeah, that's right. And it sits on the.
You know what you're doing at home.
Next year,
you know it's a better deal when you buy the 1,000 pack versus like 80 or 20.
I got to get the deal. I had a mother like that. She would drive an hour because there was a place that was $5 cheaper, and you go, did you figure the price of gas in there?
Yeah.
But she wants the deal. But yeah, it's the goal is for people to, for gardeners to be able to learn more. They can identify what they need. And we have folks that have created amazing technologies that have apps that they can link to help them organize and design their garden. We won't do that. We will just connect those gardeners to and farmers to their local communities. And the other is we're hoping it'll build networks, and we'll provide all the tools that are needed to get together. Growing up in the South, we used to go to a church where from probably March or April all the way till October, once a month they would have food on the grounds, and everyone would bring kind of a buffet thing. But the other thing they did is they would bring their extra tomatoes and peppers and onions, and my family had peaches and apples, and so they would jar some of them. Some of them they just being raw, but you bring your green beans and onions, and we would trade some, and you'd have some canned and some jarred, and we'd talk about family and what the kids are doing and who's playing football and who's playing soccer. And it was really about community.
You mean that's better than just looking at your phone like this?
I know. Can you believe it?
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't want to just do this all day.
But so the whole goal, and I think, and you and I have discussed this before, I think the real win with AI, the way to test it, if it's really going to be something benevolent or missionful, is will it get people off their phone?
Yeah.
If you can gather people together, and it's a tool where now they spend more time outside in the garden doing things because they have the knowledge they gain,
right.
Or it brings people together and builds community, that's a win.
Right.
If it causes them to spend more time and they become more addicted to time on the phone, that's a broken model.
That's a broken
for me.
Yeah. But I mean, even when you talk about farming, like it can be expensive if you're just doing it by yourself. Like it's like not everybody needs to get a rototiller. Like if you're doing till, like if you're doing no till at all, then some of those big forks and different stuff. Some of them, it all adds up, right?
That's right.
And if you have never done it, you need somebody to kind of teach you how to do it.
That's right.
So you don't mess up, because that's the big concern with a lot of change.
It is
because traditional farming has lately been GMO type stuff, throwing out these types of fertilizers, this type of like herbicide or pesticide or whatever they're putting out there for different reasons. But like to change that first or second or third year, they're going to lose. Like they're going to lose the volume, right? So how do they transition things in a way?
Right.
Like that's talking about bigger farms, but small farmers, small gardeners, they got to I got to make the box. I got to get the soil. I got to get the tiller. I got to get this. Right. I got to go buy the plants. I got to get I got to get the what are the trellises and things like that for things that are going up. Like, then they need to figure out what's going to grow together. So this takes away all that guesswork, right?
That's right.
And potentially in local communities, you could
you
could share something. Okay, you got a great rototiller. Let's just have a rototiller day for certain stuff, right?
Exactly,
And so
exactly.
like, you know, you've got a great like deep
You can share
no-till
it,
type
yeah.
thing where you can actually break loose the clay soil.
Right.
And you got to have a tractor to do that because
That's right.
it's going down 36 inches or 24 inches to loosen up things down there that have been compacted, right?
And
so,
we had talked earlier about, you know, like the homesteaders and stuff, they're spending, they've got 8 acres or whatever. That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot to spend. If you're gardening, all of that's a massive amount of land.
Right.
And you're spending a bunch on equipment. You need to have that special planter, that special tiller, or whatever it is. And if you're, and there are a bunch of other people that could use that for 2 days, but they don't want to spend $2,000 for something they're going to use 2 days a year.
Exactly.
But if you have a community, you can say, look, we're getting ready to plant. I can go on and say, hey, you know, I've got a whatever tiller brand and style. I've got so and so that's a planter. I've got a box builder. I've got a saw that can do so and so.
Right.
And people can rent that, and you can say, look, I'm offering it out for $50 a day or whatever it is.
Right.
That helps them to make more money.
Exactly.
And offset their cost, and it helps the other people. But we need to get that as a community. And if you and it's not enough that it's worth a Home Depot or Lowe's sometimes paying for all that. But at the same time, if we get more people engaged, Home Depot and Lowe's and others will be partners because more people are going to be gardening. If I don't do well this year, I may not do it next year.
Yeah.
But if I have the support of everybody and I do well, and I'm confident that the issues that I did have, I'm going to be able to mend them for the next season.
Yeah.
That gives me the confidence to try it again. And the bottom line is that over time, you will end up growing more and more.
Right.
So while we said we have enough food to feed everybody, this will help us to make sure we have enough food locally to feed the
in
people
that area,
want it.
right? Yeah.
And ultimately, we call it a garden hero. But ultimately, the woman with the single mom with 2 kids working 2 jobs, taking the time to cook a meal, she's the hero, right? The gardener is learning a lot, and they are a hero to the community, but we want people to take the next step. And we want to give them the recipes, exactly how to do this, so it's easy for them to make the decisions. Combine these things together, and maybe we'll even have groups gather together in community and mix those things together and send off the rice and the beans and the tomatoes and whatever, a soup mix. So all you do is take it home and heat it up, and it's all fresh. Those things will emerge out of those community models. But for us, community is the
well, and that's the way it used to be. You know,
It
was you'd get to the community center, or you'd go to the church, you'd go to the different like get-togethers and different things. You'd have swaps and all that type of stuff. And I think I would love to be in that type of community.
I agree.
Where it came from.
Yeah, they're still so popular. Farmers markets and all of that.
Absolutely. But people are coming to the farmers market, and then they're like, well, will you take this? Will you take a little lower? And it's like, pay them what they're asking, please.
That's right.
Because it costs money.
They're not really, most of them are not making money at the farmers market. They're hopefully getting people are
They're trying to break even so that they can, for the most part. So, I mean, there's some that do quite well on certain things, but I think most of them in general just aren't. They're out there to meet a few people and have that entrepreneur dream to make a little bit more. So, and that's where you were talking about with the excess. It's like, hey, how can we get these into the food banks? How can we get these into a place where potentially now you're able to, co-op together? I mean, we had some other brainstorming ideas too, like how do we get these into maybe small supermarkets in rural areas, different things like that, where this is all local from people that
and depending on where you are, you have different solutions, but they all exist already, right? So we were talking with a brilliant guy, Zach, about the trucks that they can bring in, taking fresh food and bringing it right to schools that are in areas, and folks can come out afterward and get boxes of food that are right where they are. So rather than having to drive 10 miles or whatever to a food pantry, they actually have it right there. That's a better solution.
That's right.
And what we've done in Africa, where they're 6-hour drive away from places, if you have grade 1 tomatoes or peppers or onions, they won't be grade 1 by the time they get to the city.
No,
not bouncing over those roads.
That's right.
In Costa Rica, we used to call it the Costa Rican massage. It's free. We don't charge extra.
Well, that's how they used to sort potatoes.
Oh, goodness
did you know
gracious.
that? Yeah, they'd put them all in the back of a pickup truck, and the bigger ones go to the bottom.
And all the big ones go to the bottom.
Find the bumpiest road.
It makes perfect sense, right? Using nature,
that does,
working
but not for tomatoes.
That's amazing, but not with tomatoes. The big ones do go to the bottom, but they're holding up the squished ones on the top as well. But if you're able to take those and you build a small drying facility, so we've done that in a couple of countries where you do a walk-in dryer and folks go in and they slice up. Now it doesn't have to be a #1 quality either, because you don't care what they look like, but you're going to put it into a walk-in dryer that's powered by the waste the biofuel that's outside and solar, and you have no energy cost, and they're drying that. Now I've got a 6 to 18 month life on those tomatoes. And quite frankly, we would pay maybe $1.50 for a 5-gallon bucket in those markets in say Tanzania. But if you dry that same bucket, it's this much of dried, cut and dried, and it's about $3.50.
Okay.
And it doesn't cost me as much to ship it. So they more than double their money.
Yeah.
And we now have a product that can be quickly added into soup mixes, and I don't have to worry about it getting squished
with no waste
on the drive. And I can ship a lot more in dollar value that 6-hour drive to the city. Yeah. Same thing will happen here. You're going to start having where those farmer markets, they're going to come in and we'll take that excess and you'll pay them some piece. So they were going to throw it away. We can say, well, you're going to get 25 cents on the dollar. That may cover more than their cost.
Right.
And now you take all those and dry that squash and potatoes and peppers and onions, and we put all that together to make things. Yeah. And they'll work together as a community to decide what is it that we're going to make. Is it soups that we're going to jar? Are we going to dry it and add the chili powder and the garlic and the whatever it is, and we're going to make something else? But once you get where you build community, all these new things can emerge. Yeah. So it all begins with community.
Yeah. So so that's the next thing. Is it already ready? Like, can people download it now?
It should be ready very shortly.
Okay.
So yeah, Garden Hero.
All right, gardenhero.com.
It should be gardenhero.com.
We're not sure yet.
But right now, but it may also be gardenhero.ai, which is what we're using right now, because it is predominantly AI native, which is how we made sure that it was AI native, so that there's not a lot of cost to it, so that all of the benefits that come from the discounts and stuff, we can push the preponderance to the users, to the gardeners.
Yeah, and I think what you've done is realized, like, there's so many great independent apps that are out there, but when you bring them all together, that's what people need. Like, because I know I've got way too many apps on my phone that I pay yearly, annual things for, and all of a sudden I'm getting charged for, because I'm like, oh, that's a great idea, and then you don't necessarily adapt it. But if it's all in one spot, that's a phenomenal thing. I mean, you got a marketplace where you could potentially get discounts on everything that you might need to be a home gardener or a little bit bigger gardener. Like, I mean, I think that's fantastic. And
ultimately, it should make you money. You should save enough from that what you spend and the time and the dollars on the app are it's saving you money at the end of the day. Yeah.
Well, that's fantastic. What else should we talk about? We went through a lot of different things. I know from my perspective, if you have a garden at home or whatever, I always say, get your shoes off these foot coffins and put your foot on the ground, get your hands in the dirt, got to ground yourself, and you got to do it every day.
It's cheaper than therapy.
It's cheaper than therapy for sure. It's cheaper for sure. Yeah, I did hear about a sea salt. Like, if you put sea salt in the ground, you stand on it. I don't know if I haven't used that yet. So stay tuned. I'm going to try that. It's supposed to be like a 2-week vacation, 15 minutes.
Well, I was going to say, that's why people
15 minutes
walk in the sandy beach.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
I can see.
Try it at home and let me know.
Yeah.
What else? I mean, you've had a super diverse life, entrepreneur. I mean, I know you've got a lot of things to share. What else could you impart or share to our audience? Encourage them in some way.
There are enough solutions out there that are going on. If people, whether folks are developers or whether they're wanting to find products, the way that we think about things is different. So the way that we eat, I think you're going to see many restaurants that are going to go under. The number of seats in restaurants over the past 15 years has grown substantially more than the number of people eating. The number of people eating has grown, but the number of seats has grown even more. So you're going to get a compression in the restaurant industry. And I think those restaurants that focus on buying food that's been regeneratively sourced is going to grow tremendously. So there's a need and a want by many of those restaurant chains to source. And I think you're going to get to where you have folks with small gardens that grow, if they have 5 acres and they grow, they're going to start selling into a group using all the same heirloom seed quality. They're going to grow as a contract type farmer for a number of these areas, and that'll go into the restaurant group in one area. I think there are other solutions in AI that are going to allow us to identify which plants grow the best in which areas, and we'll be able to grow more and better and feed our family. And I think there's a trend towards people wanting to do homesteading type things, but it's hard work. Mm-hmm. So the next best solution is to be friends with a homesteader and to be part of a community where you have farmers markets and all that sort of thing. But
Yeah, the homesteading has exploded, and I think that is, people want that independence, but they don't realize how hard it is.
Right,
And
right.
and it's hard. Is it
really
fulfilling? 100%. Are you going to
Right.
make your money back from what you do? Probably not, but it's more fulfilling
It
for
is.
sure. I think it's getting back to the roots of who and what we're supposed to be, and in reality, we're not
yeah.
made for these concrete jungles that are out here.
It's like, and I kind of harken back to the ladies in Africa. It's hard work, but they are living the ultimate life. They love it. It's a great, great thing. And we have a TV show, I think I shared with you before, called Farm Hero, which is now in its second season, doing really, really well. And we actually did several episodes in Zimbabwe and Zambia this year to talk about, and meeting with folks like Alan Savory, some of the OGs of regenerative agriculture. And we're hoping to launch Homestead Hero soon, and Chef Hero and Garden Hero. So we're going to start doing TV type models that'll be available on certain networks and probably on YouTube channels or what have you as well. And I encourage people to check those out, because those will be on a weekly basis. You'll be able to garner new information and hopefully not just watch it and see, but you'll be able to identify with other people and create community.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I know from my own perspective, just, moving to Texas, having a ranch, doing the regenerative farming, my wife rolls her eyes sometimes, but she enjoys much of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a little bit excess sometimes when you plant a couple hundred trees versus, a couple trees, but it's something that you start to put systems in place, and those systems actually make things like work. And one of the things we're doing is teaching our kids a lot of this as well.
Wow.
Right. And so one of the things, and I think people at home should be doing this, schools used to, sometimes they'll plant a bean, and you see the excitement of the roots and how it grows. And I mean, that is 100% true. Kids need to understand where their food comes from.
Exactly.
And they have to help prepare it. And I always notice that if you have your kids help you cook, they will then eat the healthier things.
That's right.
Right? They'll do it. They'll want to do it,
Things that grew in your garden taste better.
They do taste better.
And when they participated in it, they taste even better.
So what I did this year is I did a challenge. So I have 4 kids.
That's great.
They each have a box. So it's a 4x8. We helped, like, my
That's
wife
a box. That's a whole garden
a 4x8.
box.
That's a pretty good section, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to weed it and water it and everything else. And what we're already seeing is, like, they're already wanting to like, can I go water it now? And then they're like getting into like competition mode. They're like, no, I'm gonna water mine first. I'm gonna do that first. And like, so we're gonna give them a reward. They don't know what it is yet, but I don't know what it is yet, but
whoever grows the most gets to go to college.
We're
Everybody
gonna reward
else,
them
you're
somehow,
out.
like whichever one looks the best, produces the most, or whatever. Or maybe we'll have a reward for each level of whatever. But they're out there and they're doing
That's
it.
amazing.
We helped them start. Well, we started the seeds, and then they kind of watched that whole process, right? But
I love that.
That's I think that I would encourage every parent to do that.
Oh, absolutely. That's
And
amazing.
if you're a school teacher, do it with your kids. I mean, get that.
There's
get
so
that
much
bean in
knowledge
there,
to be gained from spending time with chickens and cows and pigs and goats and just fingers in the soil for sure.
I mean, a lot of people have come out to the farm, and it's the first time they've ever actually pulled an egg out of a nest.
Right.
I mean, that's like knowing where your food comes from is really important.
It really is. And when you realize the process, when you get an egg that's natural and you can sit it on the shelf for weeks, whereas the one in the refrigerator, because it's been cleaned, and the protective cover that's on that egg that allows it just to sit there is gone. Now you've made it more fragile.
Yeah.
And what we want is to build systems that are anti-fragile.
Right.
And same with animals and meats and all that. How we cure meats and how we store meats makes a big difference.
Most people don't realize that, though, that you can leave the egg, as long as you don't wash it and put it in the fridge. It's straight from the chicken. You can't take this once it goes in the refrigerator or gets clean. You can't do this.
That's right.
But it'll just rot, right?
Yeah, that's right.
but if you have it from the chicken, it will last 3-4 weeks.
That's right. Yeah.
And another way to test it is, a lot of people don't know this either, is that you have a bowl of water, you put the eggs in. If it floats, it's rotting, so don't eat it.
That's right. That's right.
If it's tipped up, it's questionable sometimes, but like usually it's pretty good. Once it starts to float, don't eat it.
That's right. And it's a simple test, right?
Simple test.
You don't have to drink the milk to know it's sour. You can just, with an egg, you don't have to cook it to see. There's ways to test it. And
we had some, there's a lot of industrial meat bird in our area, and so we had one of the farmers come by, and I was doing them out. They're out free ranging during the day, and they're back in the
Right.
the cage for protection at night, right? And so and it's like they're on the ground all the time because there's nothing underneath. It's just like they're on the ground, right? So and so you should see the grass after. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
But ultimately, they're like, wow, look, they actually look pretty happy. And it's like, we turn the lights on to give them day and we turn the lights off to give them night, right? It's like they don't ever get to see the sunlight.
No, that's right.
In many cases, and the marketing of it is unfortunately so deceptive too. Like free range can be
4 feet of grass outside.
Like
they
nothing,
go for 2 hours.
and it's like, that's not like, so anyway.
And birds like being inside a lot. They want to be protected, but if you give them time during the day and they're used to being out in an open canopy, they'll spend a lot of time in the grass.
No, they knew they knew to go back in at night because they felt more protected, and they would go out in the morning. You just open the
and they may not get all of their nutrition from that in a day, but they can get a big chunk of it. So over time, it reduces your feed cost and they taste better.
They definitely taste better.
And they taste better. So, and I come from a faith-based background, and I want to make sure that I honor the animal and respect the sacrifice that they're making to be part of my ecosystem. Yeah. And I want to make sure that I'm supporting their ecosystem, that we're all doing kind of what we're here to do.
Yep. But I've talked for years, you don't want to eat a cow that's knee deep in its own crap its whole life. It's like, you just don't want that.
Yeah.
That's hanging upside down as it's getting slaughtered. Like that just isn't respectful.
There's an honorable way to do this.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Well, that's kind of a gross way to end this, but Richard, it was awesome. It was awesome to have you on, and I learned a ton, and I hope those of you at home did as well. Thank you so much, and until next time. Hey, the algorithm doesn't always work with us, so please share this out, and we would love to hear your comments. Follow Richard. I'll put his information, Richard Lackey, on LinkedIn or Facebook, and we've got Farm Hero, right?
Farm Hero TV.
Farm Hero TV. So we'll put some of these links in the description or in the screen right here. But I hope you have a great one, and get out there and bless somebody. Get your hands in the soil. All right. Until next time.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.